Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Field's Guide to Secrets by Julie Mulhern, narrated by Renée Chambliss. Chapter 1. A gunshot awakened me. A gunshot? I squeezed my eyes shut and counted all the reasons that wasn't possible. Thor, his parents named him Mark, but he bore a startling resemblance to Chris Hemsworth, and I were snuggled in bed on a private island. The only other people around were Consuela, the long-haired Chihuahua who adopted me on a trip to Mexico, and the caretakers. And the sweet older couple didn't seem the type to shoot guns at... I fumbled for my phone. 4 a.m. 4? My poor, tired brain, which had endured days of guns and chases and death, must have conjured the gunshot. Bang! I levitated out of bed. Thor was already halfway across the room and reaching for his pants, and his guns. I pulled on a black t-shirt, jammed my feet into sneakers, and stumbled to the drawer where I'd stashed the Glock my father loaned me. The one I forgot, not sorry, to return. Consuela, who possessed the heart of a lion, growled from deep in her chest, a sound she saved for people she didn't like, and danger. Thor cracked the door and peeked into the hallway. Clear. Consuela and I followed him into the hall that led from the enormous master bedroom to the gigantic living room. The house, the whole island, was an over-the-top wedding gift from my new stepfather, Yurgi Prokhorov, to my mother, Sheris Carlton. A low rumble came from Consuela's tawny throat. Hush, I told her. I couldn't see her little face in the dark, but I strongly suspected that she rolled her eyes at me. The three of us crept toward the living room. The house felt empty, but that didn't stop a chilly tingle from settling between my shoulder blades. Thor paused. Using the hallway wall as cover, he peeked into the living room. Consuela darted past us. She stopped near the couch and sniffed the air. Then her doggy lips pulled back from tiny but vicious teeth, and she snarled. I tightened my grip on the Glock and wished we'd never come here. We were supposed to be on vacation, and the use of a private island had sounded idyllic. Sun, privacy, a beautiful home, and the two of us. 3 if you counted Consuela, and Consuela insisted upon being counted. It should have been perfect. But Yurgi had asked us to stop in Athens and pick up a package from his friend Kostas Dimitriou. That hadn't gone well. One might go so far as to say it had gone car chase leading to a smashed Mercedes poorly. Bemused and exhausted, we'd arrived on the island, just in time for a storm which washed 6 trafficked girls ashore. Since then, between getting the girls to safety and dealing with the men who bought and sold them, we hadn't had a moment's peace. And now, some new threat had crashed our vacation. It was enough to make me long for home. 3 o'clock, Thor whispered. The living room was dark. The patio was not. And the man in tactical gear was easy to spot as he skirted lounge chairs. Who sent them? Thor shrugged. The possibilities were endless. Russian mobsters. Johnny Sue, a billionaire playboy with a dark side. Or someone who wanted the mysterious package we'd picked up for Yurgi. And those were just the first 3 options. What do we do? I pulled on Thor's arms, tugging him deeper into the shadows. The plaster near where he'd just stood exploded. At the stairs that led to the lower level, Consuela barked. I lifted the Glock, aimed at a dark shape on the steps, and pulled the trigger. A series of thuds and oofs followed. Did you hit him? My stomach clenched. It was possible the man had lost his footing and fallen down the stairs. It was also possible I'd just killed someone. I'm not sure. We need to move, Thor whispered. We crouched and dashed to the kitchen, where I hid behind the island and clutched the Glock with fingers chilled by adrenaline. Thor opened a drawer, chose a knife, then took a position next to the doors to the patio. He scanned the outside. I think we're clear. Was going outside the smartest choice? You're sure? They're looking for us inside. He made an excellent point. We slipped outside, wrapped ourselves in darkness, and found cover in the bushes that lined the steep path down to the docks. In theory, we could descend, hop on a boat, and escape to open water. In theory. But there was no way we could leave the older couple who took care of the house with a hit squad. The caretakers? 2 shots, Poppy. The grimness in Thor's voice left no room for hope. He meant Malia and Oscar were dead, murdered by whoever had come for us. I blinked back, awash of tears, and put aside the guilt and anger. They would wait for me. Why now? Thor had a long history with the secret agency that had recently recruited me. Before that, he was a Navy SEAL. Those years meant he had experience dealing with villains. No idea. I huffed my frustration. This is ridiculous. We'd have been safer in a border town in Mexico. Juarez and Tijuana don't have the same cachet as a private island in Greece. Who cares about cachet? I don't want to die. Consuela growled softly, and Thor and I fell silent. Seconds later, a man carrying a body in a fireman's hold passed our hiding place. I held up 2 fingers and mouthed, "Is that it?" There could be 20 men in black tactical gear lurking on the island, but I was hoping for 2. A nice, round, small number. Thor answered with a frown. He wouldn't risk our lives on a guess. Instead, he gripped the kitchen knife, which had a wicked blade, motioned for me to stay put, and followed the man toward the dock. Sneaking up on someone with a knife wasn't exactly Thor's style, but these men, whoever they were, had come to kill us. Consuela and I waited in the dark. I held her on my lap and stroked her silky head, which calmed us both, and counted the passing seconds. An eternity, less than 2 seconds, later, Thor returned. You killed him? Even in the darkness, I saw the grim line of his mouth and the tense set of his shoulders. I squeezed his hand. Now what? We wait. I groaned. Waiting wasn't my favorite thing. Nor was it Consuela's. She gave the idea 10 seconds, then wriggled away from me and left us in the shrubs. Consuela! I whisper-yelled. Stay! She tilted her head as if she were actually considering obeying my command. Then she took off into the night. I exhaled, audibly. This time, Thor squeezed my fingers. She'll be back. He was right. Of all my worries, Consuela's well-being hardly registered. She did a bang-up job taking care of herself. Did you see their boat? Too dark. In the distance, a man yelped. I tensed. She'll be fine. He said it like a promise. She's faster than a greased pig and smarter than most of the people I know. Seconds later, the rapid click of doggy nails on the concrete patio reached us. She ran, and the outdoor lighting around the pool meant the worried expression on her face was plain. A man chased her. He lifted his gun. I lifted mine. He took aim at my dog. I shot. The man clutched his chest, stumbled into the pool, and floated, face down. Thor gripped my arm. Time to move. I lowered the gun and swallowed a sob. I hated killing people, and my tally for the night stood at a possible 2. I had to shoot him. I know. Thor's voice was gentle. "You saved Consuela." He pulled me to standing, and we ran for a stand of trees 100 feet from the patio. Consuela, who was unfazed by her brush with death, disappeared around the corner of the house. I lowered myself to the rocky ground. "Do we have a plan?" "Not to die." "Good plan. Is there more to it?" "The wheels are turning." I let him think. I had plenty of thoughts to examine myself. First, and totally annoying, was that Mr. Brown was right. Mr. Brown was my boss at a super-secret agency tasked with keeping America and the world safe. His average build and looks hid a dazzling intelligence, and Mr. Brown believed I desperately needed training. He harped on that, often. Second, there was no one I'd rather have with me at this moment than Thor. I trusted him. We fit. Third, I didn't want to die, period. But especially not before I found the person responsible for this. "Got anything?" asked Thor. I frowned. "I thought you were working on the plan." "It could be a joint effort." "We don't know how many men are here, who sent them, or why." "All true," he agreed. "We've taken out 3. And?" He sounded as if he expected more from me. "That's it." "That's it?" His voice was amused. "That's an assessment, not a plan." "Waiting to hear your plan." "We hide till daylight and reassess." Spend the next few hours hiding in the bushes? That didn't appeal to me. At all. "It gives the bad guys the opportunity to call for reinforcements." "We go on the offensive." "Hunt the hunters?" "I guess you could call it that." 3 guns and a knife against who knows what. They might have automatic rifles or night vision goggles. They undoubtedly had more ammunition. I didn't like our chances. "Is there a third option?" "We make a run for the boat and hope a gunman isn't waiting to pick us off on our way to the dock." I pushed my hair out of my face. No good options. Why wasn't there at least one? "Nope." "We've seen worse." Unfortunate, but true. Also true, a mystery man on a motorcycle wasn't coming to save us. We were on our own. "What do we do?" Before Thor could answer, Consuela rejoined us. She sat on her haunches and panted, and her little pink tongue lolled from the side of her mouth. "How many more?" I asked her. She grinned. "None!" "Consuela says we got them all." It was too dark to see Thor's face, but I was fairly certain his brows lifted. "You want to trust our lives to a dog?" he asked. "She's saved us before." "Are you sure you're interpreting her correctly?" I pushed myself to standing. "Poppy," Thor grabbed my wrist. "This is crazy." I couldn't see Consuela's face any better than I could see Thor's, but I was fairly certain she side-eyed him. "What's the worst thing that can happen?" I asked. "Your dog can't count, and you get yourself killed." Consuela growled. Thor ran his fingers through his already messy hair. "What if Malia and Oscar need help?" He sighed, as if he were 100% sure they were dead. "Please?" "Fine, we check on Malia and Oscar. We grab go bags and we get off this island." "And go where?" "Someplace no one will find us." That was just wishful thinking. Someone always found us. Yergi, or Mr. Brown, or my father, or the paparazzi. We tiptoed to the house with Consuela dancing around our ankles. As she'd promised, the place was free of bad guys. We descended the stairs to Malia and Oscar's apartment and found them. Dead, each with a single gunshot wound to the head. Guilt twisted my stomach into an elaborate knot. "I have to call Yergi. Let's get off the island first." The police could be corrupt. Let's get to safety, then we'll figure out our next steps. If it makes you feel better, I'll call Mr. Brown." Reluctantly, I agreed. We returned to the bedroom, and I threw clothes into a carry-on. Using the satellite phone, Thor called Mr. Brown and explained the past 30 minutes. I grabbed a second suitcase and ignored Thor's disapproving "I said a go bag, not multiple suitcases" frown. Then I opened the safe and took out the package we'd picked up in Athens. Jurgi had given his permission. We could open the box. I'd been tempted last night, but exhaustion had weighed too heavily, and I'd opted for falling into bed. If the killers had come for the box, I wanted to know what was in it. Using the combination he'd provided, I lifted the lid. Thor and I had speculated on what might be inside. He was convinced it was a universal key that would unlock frozen Bitcoin accounts. I'd guessed a priceless piece of art. We were both wrong. 3 thumb drives rested in pink anti-static foam. There was also a Makarov pistol in a plastic bag, a bullet casing, a fingerprint card, and a stack of stamped documents written in Cyrillic script. Thor joined me next to the bed and whispered, "Those are death certificates." Then he returned his attention to Mr. Brown. I pulled a sealed envelope from the box and opened it. Inside, I found pictures of one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Younger than the face I was accustomed to seeing on the news, but definitely him. He held a gun that looked remarkably like the one in the box, and he pointed it at a man I'd never seen before. The next photo showed the unknown man in a pool of blood on the floor. "Mark!" We were in so much trouble. He covered the mouthpiece. "What?" "It's proof." "Proof of what?" "Proof that the Russian president committed murder." I glanced at the stack of death certificates. "Potentially multiple murders." Thor rejoined me beside the bed, took the photos from my hands, then spoke into the phone. "We need to evacuate the island, sir. I'll be in touch." He tossed the phone on the bed and carefully studied the photographs. Then he rifled through the death certificates, growing paler with each passing second. "Jurgi and his buddies have been blackmailing the Russian president." "That can't be right. Jurgi doesn't need money." Jurgi was a billionaire, an oligarch. "Not for money, for concessions, for shipping routes, for ownership stakes in formerly state-owned companies." My mother had married a man who used extortion to build his fortune, and I liked him. That was a lot to unpack. Why didn't Putin have him killed? Jurgi and his friends had an agreement. Thor shrugged as if his idea might pass muster. Or not. If one of them died under mysterious circumstances, the contents got released? There were rumors. Unexplained helicopter crashes, the hanging of Boris Berezovsky, a Russian oligarch with no reason to kill himself, and numerous falls out of windows. Hospital windows, embassy windows, hotel windows. And those were the rumors. There were instances that were more than rumors. Like Litvinenko, the Russian spy who died from radiation poisoning. The Russian president had ordered the deaths of hundreds, and if I counted the war in Ukraine, tens of thousands. I rubbed my tired eyes. Now that I think about it, why would Putin care about what's in this box? He'd done so much worse than shoot a man. He's holding the gun. It's not as if anyone in Russia would demand justice. Optics, Poppy. We need to leave, now. He returned photographs to the box, then went to the closet and began shoving clothes into a duffel. I found the slit in the lining of my suitcase, pulled out the luggage tracker, and rehomed the device inside Jurgi's box. 5 minutes later, we were on a boat headed out to sea. Chapter 2. Thor sat behind the boat's wheel with Consuela on his lap. The rising sun gilded his skin and hair, and he looked more godlike than ever. And Consuela? with her tawny fur blown back and a grin on her clever face, made a fitting sidekick. "Where are we going?" He turned his head my way. "Venice." The morning air was crisp and salty and sharp. I drew deep breaths into my lungs and wished for coffee. Venice was the first European city to embrace coffee. Thor tilted his head. "Trade routes?" "Exactly." The thought of a cappuccino made my mouth water, and I prayed we reach the city before 11. After 11, Italians consider drinking cappuccinos uncouth. "Why Venice?" "There's a safe house. We can regroup." A safe house? A safe house suggested an old coffee maker and stale beans. The opposite of sipping the perfect mix of espresso, steamed milk, and foam at a sunny cafe. "I've been thinking." Thor glanced my way. So did Consuela. "The auction." We'd gone to Crete to save the girls from trafficking, not crash an auction. But Kostas Dimitriou, Yurgi's friend, and fellow extortionist, had called together some of the world's richest men. It didn't take a genius to figure out what he was selling. I touched the woven leather of my Bottega Veneta tote, which rested on the seat next to me. I usually carried Alaya bags, but the gorgeous laser cuts in my Alaya tote would make the box too visible. Could Dimitriou be the one behind the attack? Does he want the box back? Thor eased off the throttle, and the boat slowed. He stared at the sea as if the depths hid the answers to all of his questions. Finally, he said, "You're right. We should go to Athens." Not where I expected this conversation to lead. At all. I had zero love for Athens. Or Greek coffee. Because it went so well last time? Because we need to talk to Dimitriou. Athens. Sweet Greek coffee rather than a cappuccino. Can't we ask Yurgi for Dimitriou's phone number and call him? It's easier to detect lies face to face. Dimitriou had arranged an auction. That fact was indisputable. But for what? The contents of the box? Or something else entirely? Thor scratched at the golden scruff on his cheeks. "We have the box." I rolled my tight shoulders. "Dimitriou can't sell what he doesn't have." "Exactly, which is a good reason to steal it back. We have no way of knowing if that's the gun in the photograph. The photos might not be original." "So he gave us the fakes and decided to auction the real items?" "It's a possibility." Thor turned the wheel, and we headed south instead of north. The wind off the night-chilled water was cool, and I pulled the light sweater I'd grabbed tighter around my shoulders. Who sent those men, and how did they get onto the island? Except for our boat, the dock had been empty. My bet, the Federal Security Service. I leaned my head back and stared at the morning sky. The chill that shook my limbs came from inside of me, not the wind. The SVR? The Foreign Intelligence Service was the Russian equivalent of the CIA, but with fewer morals. Could it be Johnny Sue? I was clutching at straws. An amoral billionaire I could handle. Russian spies? Not so much. How would he know to come after us? Fair point. Maybe Dimitriou sent them. Maybe he wants the box back. If Dimitriou sent the killers, going to Athens was a terrible idea. Consuela jumped from Thor's lap, then leapt onto mine, where she snuggled close. I stroked her soft fur as too many questions and too few answers danced in my coffee-deprived brain. I should call Yurgi. Thor handed me the satellite phone, and I dialed Yurgi's number.
Zdravstvuyte.
Yurgi, it's me.
Puppy, do you know the time?
He paused, and I pictured him squinting at a clock.
What's wrong?
We just left the island. There was a hit squad. My throat tightened, and I couldn't manage another word.
Are you hurt? Where are you?
At sea. Literally and figuratively. The caretakers, Malia and Oscar. My voice broke. They're dead.
The package?
I have it with me.
He exhaled. You opened it.
We did. The words bowed under the weight of my suspicions.
It's not what you think.
You didn't use the contents to get favorable contracts or inside deals? A long silence followed.
I used the contents to ensure my safety and Victor's.
Victor was Jurgi's son.
Now, that protection extends to your mother.
And Dimitrio? Why would a Greek need dirt on a Russian president?
Kostas does business in Russia. The contents even the playing field.
Who else knew about the box? I asked.
Ahmet Koze, Dalcho, and Maxim Volkov.
The names meant nothing to me, but I committed them to memory. Would one of them come after us?
No.
He sounded so certain.
I will make inquiries. I'll find out who invaded my island. Where are you going?
I glanced at Thor. We haven't decided. The main thing was to get away.
Poppy, the contents of that box are not worth your life or Mark's.
The contents...
I did not believe the box would put you in danger.
I wasn't entirely sure it had. Could it be Yakuntov who invaded the island? The gangster who ran the human trafficking ring was none too happy with Thor and me.
Only if he wants to die an excruciating death. That was made clear.
Jurgi sounded supremely confident. So, the contents of the box... I let my voice trail off, waiting for confirmation.
There should be photographs, a gun, a bullet casing, death certificates, a signed affidavit, and...
Jurgi cleared his throat. And?
I can remember nothing more.
I gazed at the lavender sky and did a quick mental inventory. That sounds about right.
I am sorry. I did not think you would be in danger. Kostas, Ahmet, Dal, Maxim, and I keep the contents safe. We have for years, and nothing like this has ever happened.
You have a deal of some kind? I asked.
If anything suspicious happens to one of us, the others will release the contents.
When you were kidnapped? Jurgi had been abducted while at dinner with my mother, and I'd gone to London to find him.
They were in talks. It was close.
You trust these men?
With my life.
Even Dimitriou? The sun crested the horizon, and I narrowed my eyes at its brightness. I need to make another call.
Be careful,
he told me.
If it is the SVR looking for the box, you're in grave danger.
They'd awakened me with murder, I was aware. Keep Shiraz safe. We hung up, and I dialed Mr. Brown. Hello. It's Poppy. You had an eventful morning. That Mr. Brown, a master of understatement. Where are you? Headed toward Athens. Why? To talk to a friend of Jurgi's. Where's Stone? Captaining the boat. Have him call me. About the island. We'd left a gruesome scene behind us. A cleanup crew is on their way. With any luck, there will be identification on the bodies, and we'll discover who they work for. I'm not that lucky. Your life seems charmed to me. I held Consuela closer to my chest. We were together because I'd been kidnapped by a Mexican drug lord. Any idea what they wanted? He asked. The box. But if I told Mr. Brown about the box, he'd want to know what was in it. Giving the U.S. government that information seemed like the fast track to getting Jurgi killed. We stole the girls from Russian gangsters. Hearing my response, Thor turned his head and frowned. That's a possibility. Or it could be the package you picked up from Dimitriou. Had Thor told him about the box? Now I frowned. What's in it? Mr. Brown demanded. I'll tell you when we open it. You expect me to believe you...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?